welcome to the press box. With me tonight is Ty Reynolds, and we'd first of all like to thank our sponsors, the Atlanta Knights, who won the Turner Cup, and the Sports Authority, and Dirty Owls at Northside, where they should be tuning in now, because I know they don't want to watch that Ranger game. But
no way.
We'll start with the NBA Finals that tip off tomorrow night, and who do you like here, Ty?
Well, first of all, when I look at this series, I like Houston really with the matchups. I think for New York, there's three key ingredients, but you got to look at field goal shooting, rebounds, and turnovers. In that seventh game against Indiana, New York was able to do 2 out of 3 things pretty well. Their field goal percentage was lousy, but that's expected with the Knicks. They shot 10% less than Indiana. They shot in the low 40s, but they out-rebounded them, something like 51 to 29, great rebounding advantage, and they made less than 20 turnovers. When New York seems to make less than 20 turnovers, they're in a lot of basketball games. When they make over 20, they were losing games to Indiana. I think those are the 3 critical areas. They have to get 2 out of 3 at least, because I think Houston really is a much tougher team than Indiana.
I don't know. I think the Knicks and the Pacers both felt like they were playing in the finals. I think both teams felt either one would beat the Rockets. I think it will be a close matchup. As far as New York goes, I can't think of anything a better point than right now. We need to bring up the officiating, Ty. Officiating in the NBA this year has stunk, to say the least. But in this last series, I'm not for the Pacers. I'm not for the Knicks, and it doesn't matter. Taking away that flagrant foul call at the end, the whole series seemed to just lack the good officiating that would have made it a little more objective, I think. What do you think about it?
I don't know. It may be that big of an issue. I don't think it has. I think what it comes down to are the turnovers, the way you value the basketball, your field goal percentage, and how well you can play defense. And I think that the Knicks know how to do a lot of those things well, especially playing team defense. I think that's why they won. I think there were questionable calls, but I think it was shabby on both ends.
Yeah, it certainly was. It goes all the way back, I think, to that foul call on Pippen when they were playing. The Knicks were playing the Bulls. Do you recall that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's almost like somehow the NBA needed for the Knicks to be in this final series. I don't want to say the fix is on, but it sure looked pretty bogus throughout the playoffs. It's like the Knicks are the marquee team without Jordan playing. It just seemed like they've been steered right into this final matchup. So Houston seems like the better of the two teams, and Olajuwon should dominate that low post matchup. They have the home court advantage, But you watch the Knicks sneak away with this NBA crown. And I'm not going to say it's because of officiating, but I just think that the Knicks probably will take them in a long series if they wear down Olajuwon.
Well, can you imagine how NBC would feel if they did have a market of Indiana and Houston in this? Houston has trouble even selling out their games in the Summit over there, and that's not a very big place. They got a problem very similar to the Hawks. And pro basketball is just not that big of an item over there.
Yeah, and in Indiana, I don't know if pro basketball, the crowds were kind of raucous crowds, when they had them, but I think that's because they gave away like half dozen ears of corn at the gate or whatever on the way in. I don't know how they got the big crowds in the Market Square Arena, but I think NBC is glad to have a big marquee team like the Knicks. Now, all the media is saying that this is Ewing against Olajuwon. That's what's going to determine the series. Don't you think there's some other key matchups?
Well, that is one of the key matchups, and when you look at the matchups this year, Olajuwon has really had his way. He has dominated Ewing. Pat Ewing is shooting something like only 25% against the Rockets this year. New York is struggling enough offensively. They seem to not get too much productivity out of Charles Smith. They're having to depend on Anthony Mason coming off the bench and giving them points, and they're having to depend on a three-point shot. John Stark shot 8 of them the other day. That was 50% of his shots was three-point shots. That is going to be very critical, and Ewing may be in for a long series, but I think the other key issue here is the Knicks' ability to shoot the ball outside with Houston. Houston has those guys like Vernon Maxwell and Kenny Smith who can bomb it from out there, and then Robert Horry is another very good transition player who can play well in the half-court game as well and hit three-pointers also. They have several people out there that can just shoot the basketball. That's a big advantage they have over New York. New York is going to have to somehow hope they can slow down the perimeter shooting, because if they have to expand their defense any, then Olajuwon is going to be able to go one-on-one with Ewing, and he's going to have his way a lot.
I think Reggie Miller pretty much proved in the last series that the Knicks can't contend with. When someone gets hot, they refuse to double team them. They refuse to deny him the ball. It's almost like Pat Riley saying, hey, if this guy's hot, let's hope that he misses, you know. I just felt like they didn't step up there. They didn't change the defense to alter his shot. And you're right, Maxwell and Smith, they got some great outside shooters on Houston, and that will be interesting to see how the Knicks actually deal with the outside shooting. However, the Knicks have come through. Harper's hit a couple of key threes, you know, and like you said, Starks made a lot of threes. So, you know, they could keep up there. There's some more interesting matchups down low. We'll get to them in a minute. Let's go to a phone call. Hi, phone call. You're live on the air. It's Press Box.
Yeah, how you guys doing tonight?
All right, how are you?
Hey, I think you guys had a pretty good point about the refereeing, and I wonder if NBC might have been involved and like put the screws to David Stern and to make sure the Knicks got in the finals here.
I don't think you're going to get any argument from Jay.
No, that's hard to prove though without like a formal indictment.
Let's work on that.
Okay. Thanks for your call. See, there's more than one fan that was upset. And now, my point now, don't get me wrong, my point is that it wasn't so much that it was slanted towards the Knicks, but I'm talking about both ends of the floor were just, the officiating was terrible. I mean, you saw that where McKee hit that three-point shot after the 24-second clock expired. It's like, now with three refs on the floor, you got to see that. And they all looked at each other and went like, hey, did you see that? Did you see that? I mean, that's just poor officiating from a veteran crew, I might add.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another phone call. Hi, caller. You're on the air live on the Press Box. Go ahead.
I have a two-part question.
Go ahead.
Number one, I was wondering what your opinion is of the relief pitchers on the Braves. They seem to be concentrating too much on base runners and losing the batters. And then the second part, what is your opinion of this potential strike coming up?
Okay, good call. Thanks for your call.
That is good
Okay.
call.
Let's switch right here to baseball real quick, and you want to take that? The relieving bullpen staff of the Braves. The caller said he feels like they're concentrating on the base runners and not on the batter.
Well, I think, first of all, these guys need to come out and throw strikes. And there's several players back there that have a lot of potential, but that's all they are is potential. Mark Wohlers is the one I would really like to see step up, but he falls behind on the count constantly and has to rely on a fastball that he doesn't have that much control over. Mike Stanton's very inconsistent, and McMichael, I think, is nothing more than a setup man. The reason he has as many saves as he has is because the Braves are just flat out the best team in baseball. With all those pitchers you have, you're going to have so many chances to save baseball games, and also the hitting's not too bad on that club either. McMichael's just going to get a whole lot of chances to save games, and Bobby Cox always likes to take a pitcher out in the eighth inning anyway, It's almost like a match made for each other.
He seems somewhat predetermined. I also, that was a good point the caller made about when they bring in a guy and there's a guy on first, you can bring a guy in another bullpen, and he's so concerned about whether the winning run's going to steal second, be in scoring position. He throws over there, he changes his delivery. I think that's a good point. You got to, like you said, throw strikes. You got to get ahead of the batter. You got to, if the guy wants to steal and you strike the guy out, big deal, right? Okay, and as far as the impending strike, what do you think about that, Ty?
Well, I think that if there is a strike, which I think there will be, I think it's going to be short. If the players go ahead and strike whenever it is, in July, or sometime in the middle of the summer, I think the owners are going to go ahead and try and work aggressively to get this resolved. I don't know what other areas they're going to have to go to retaliate towards a strike. The issue here mainly is a salary cap. Although if they wait till Labor Day towards the pennant race, and if they strike, it's not going to be very long because the players then can't afford it either, and then both sides will be sweating.
I think both sides are kind of like whiners. The owners are saying they're not making money. That's a bunch of bull. And the players are saying they're getting cheated out of benefits. I mean, they get something like $60 a meal on the road for meal money. That's crap. I mean, there shouldn't be a strike. It's going to hurt the fans. And I'll tell you what, if they strike during NFL camp or impending college football season, these fans will leave the game in droves. They'll just start following their favorite football team. We have another caller. Hi, caller. You're live on the press box. Go ahead.
Hi. How you doing?
All right.
I've heard some rumors about Terry Pendleton trade, and I just want to say he's done his good and bad stuff. I mean, one, he's sort of washed up. His batting average has done a little bit of plummeting, but I just like how, his good side is he trusts his crotch a lot, and I like that. But I saw him in the game the other day, and I just think this is a good reason to trade him. He was on first base, and he stole to the pitcher's mound, and I don't think that's acceptable baseball.
Okay, thanks for the call. Okay, Terry Pendleton, obviously he's mired in a slump. Do you think it's affecting his other parts of his game? His base running, is that what I think the caller said? He screwed up on the bases or something like that?
No, I think players are going to make mistakes here and there anyway. I mean, Terry Pendleton's a veteran player, and if he makes an error, he's the first one to know it. I think they need him on the team this year, but I really think this is going to be his last year. As for a trade rumor, well, if you had Chipper Jones around and if he was playing well, then, yeah, I could possibly see it. But if you offer Terry Pendleton to someone, he earns so much money anyway, and he's
not being productive right now.
And he's sort of an old guy that I really don't think that there would be too many people offering a whole lot for him.
He's an old portly guy, isn't he, Ty? Okay, I think that, yeah, in answer to the caller, no, they will not trade Terry Pendleton. This isn't the last year of his contract. If they move him at the end of the year, it'd be silly because they're not going to get anything for him. And I think they need his defense. The Braves right now have the best pitching staff in baseball, and what you got to do is, outside of Ryan Klesko, put the best defensive team on the field. I mean, we've seen that guy screw up, and so that kind of goes away from that sentiment. But I think that Cox really feels like he needs to leave Pendleton on the hot corner there because he still makes good defensive. I don't think that he's gotten in a slump defensively. But, yeah, watching the last couple of games, the caller's right. He's been in a horrible offensive slump. It just seems like he doesn't even know where he is, and that maybe explain a base running blunder here or there.
Yeah, but I tell you something. If the Braves make the postseason play, which I think they will, I think Terry Pendleton's going to be a pretty good guy to have up there in a clutch situation with 2 outs and men on base. I think he might still be a tough out in the postseason.
Yeah, a veteran hitter always is a tough out in the postseason, providing that his average isn't like 0.97 by then, Ty. Okay, we have another caller. Hi, caller. You're live on the air on the press box. Go ahead, caller. Well, they hung up.
Well, you
we
want to get
talked
back
too long about that last
You
call.
want to get back to basketball here? We got sidetracked a little bit.
All right, yeah, we were talking about the NBA Finals, and we were in the low, I think the forward matchups. We already talked about the Olajuwon, Ewing, and the guards. What do you think about Thorpe and Ori matching up against Charles Smith and all those Mason, whoever else they got?
I think that Houston has, again, a decisive advantage in this. I think that the forwards for New York are just inside players.
Oakley, I forgot about him. Oakley,
right.
Yeah.
The forwards like Charles Smith and Oakley and Mason are just basically inside players. Oakley will shoot some from the outside, but Houston's going to say, hey, shoot outside all day, all you want. We'll take our chances with Oakley shooting perimeter shots and not being under the basket.
He's a good outside shooter.
Yeah, but then he's not under the basket to get rebounds.
He gets a share of rebounds. You're making a good point. The forwards for the Houston are better outside shooters.
And not only that, I think they're both inside and outside players.
Okay, well, I think that the fact that there are more inside players for the Knicks, like you said, will be an advantage. That's the name of the game here. I mean, if you want a forward like Manning or somebody like that stepping out and taking an outside shot, I think that's what the defense wants, okay? But you want Oakley or Smith or Mason like driving to the hole and banging bodies in there. I think that's what Pat Riley teaches with his forwards, and that's why they're more inside players. We'll see. That'll be an interesting matchup. We have another phone call. Hi, caller. You're live on the air on the press box. Go ahead, caller. Okay, our crack staff in the back seems to be having technical difficulties. So we'll go on. You want to follow anything up on the NBA Finals? Or?
Well, I'd like to see what you think about Pat Riley possibly taking a new job. What do you think about that rumor?
I think that the sun's too hot in L.A. It'll dry the grease out of his hair, and I think he realizes that his best chance is to stay with the Knicks.
You know, if this ever did happen, first of all, there would have to be changes. Pat Riley's not going to go out there to the Los Angeles Sports Arena, which is nothing but an advanced court for Southern Cal Trojan volleyball. That's just a crummy, dumpy facility. They would have to take that club, move them to Anaheim, where they have a nice place there where the Ducks play. I mean, I just don't understand why they don't do that anyway. The Coliseum there, where the Clippers play right now, is only about 10 or 15 minutes away from the Forum. So I would move the club to Anaheim. And then you might have a chance to be able to do something. I think you could build up a good fan base down there. They had a couple of games down there, and they drew very well.
That's a good point. That's the oft-opinionated Ty Reynolds telling it like it is. Okay, let's move on to the Stanley Cup. We got Game 4 tonight in Vancouver. Rangers up 2-1. What's it look like? Must-win situation for Vancouver?
I don't think there's any doubt this is a must-win situation. And this last game that Vancouver played, it just shows you how much they depend on Kurt McLean and Pavel Bure. Bure gets ejected out of the game after he's already scored a goal. I think that really affects the rest of the team. As for Kurt McLean, he was bound to have a bad game. He has just been super. He stole game one by himself, stopping, over 50 shots?
52.
And the one thing that you have to look at with this series, Jay, and this is something that you noticed in game one, was the record of teams who won the Stanley Cup after they won game one.
Yeah.
Well,
it was 44 out of 55.
44 out of 55.
The team that wins game one wins, but not in this case.
It may not be, and I don't think it is.
I'll tell you why. Wait, let me
for
interject
Vancouver. Okay, go ahead.
Let me interject this. I'll tell you why. Because bookies will tell you out of Vegas, in a 7-game series in any sport, the team that wins game 2 wins the whole thing. And that's a betting line. I think it's 78% of the time the team that wins game 2. So you see that comes into play when the Rangers have home ice and they lose game 1, but they come back and win game 2. That put them right back in the series. You can see. Outside of betting, I'd say the Rangers are in the driver's seat.
Well, Vancouver is going to have McLean in the driver's seat tonight. I mean, he is just going to have to be there. He's the only one that gives them a chance to win. And having Pavel Bure out there, you're at home and having your best player, I think Vancouver can go ahead and get themselves back in the series, but they have to ride that goaltender.
I think McLean's burnt out. I think he was a hot goaltender, but he showed that he's just stopped too many shots. I think the Rangers will take advantage of him. Okay, we have another phone call, and hopefully we have the equipment repaired. Hi, phone caller, you're on the air live on the press box.
Hi, how you doing? This is sports talk, like any sports, right?
Yeah. You have a sports question for the press box?
Yeah, I do. Do y'all know much about the subject of croquet? There's a national croquet tournament going on in Albany. I don't know if y'all seen it yet.
Albany, New York, or Albany, Georgia?
But
Albany, New York, or Albany, Georgia?
Right, but it's a good tournament, and I'm not familiar with the subject of.
You probably should study geography and call in with a geography question rather than a croquet question. We pretty much don't cover sports where it's played on a lawn and with shorts. Okay, we are live though. Let me remind the callers that if you have a decent sports question, call in at 873-6713. All right, Ty, we were talking about the Stanley Cup Finals. Far cry from croquet.
Yes, a little more physical, but they both use sticks.
Yeah.
Another issue here is that I think that the Rangers, a lot of times, Jay, are too aggressive when they're in the opponent's zone. I think that they bring their defensive players, especially Brian Leach, in a little bit too far. And a lot of times you get burnt. You give up 3-on-2s, 3-on-1s, 2-on-1s. And Richter, he has been burnt several times, especially in the series with the Devils, with that type of play. I think when Pavel Bure is out there, if I were the Rangers, I would tell those defensemen to stay back and not let him get behind you to create any of those opportunities. That was the game-winning goal that cost them in Game 1 where they did get lost on a 2-on-1.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point. Richter, though, he's been standing up. He did get burned in that Devil series, like you said, but I think I recall the Rangers winning that series, Ty.
Yeah, they did.
All right, so we got another phone call. Hi, phone caller. You're live on the air on the press box.
Yes, I would like to direct your attention to basketball.
Sure, go ahead.
What do you think about the series coming up between Houston and New York? Who you think going to win the series?
Okay, we just touched on that in the first 10, 15 minutes of the show, but to recap, Ty likes Houston. He likes their outside shooting. He likes the fact that their low forward players are more versatile. I like New York because they're going to bang and because the officiating is slanted their way.
I also like the advantage of Olajuwon over Ewing.
Yeah, Olajuwon probably will take Ewing to school, but don't underestimate Ewing now. I mean, he's a player that plays with heart. He doesn't have the physical ability that Olajuwon does, but he plays with a lot of heart, and he gets a lot of things done for the New York Knicks. He
does. What's going to help New York and Patrick Ewing is his shooting. He is going to have to be able to shoot a better field goal percentage than 25 or 26%.
Okay, I guess we have another phone call. Hi, phone caller. You're live on the air on the press box. You have a sports question?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering who you guys think you like this year in college football. Like, give me your top 5 in college football.
College football?
Good question.
Top 5 in college football. Number 1 team probably will be the Wisconsin Badgers.
Oh, come on, Jay.
Returning Rose Bowl champs, I'm telling you. How can you win the Big Ten and not be favored to win it all?
No, I tell you who I like. I like Notre Dame. I think they're pretty loaded. I like Florida. They have a ton of people coming back. And not only that, they got a new defensive coordinator, which I think they needed badly. I still think Florida State will be there. I think Miami has a whole lot of people coming back. I think they're going to be tough to contend with. Those are basically the 4 teams that stand out in my mind right now.
Yeah, Notre Dame's always a good pick, isn't it? And I think Penn State, you got to throw them up there because now they're used to playing in the Big Ten. They'll probably come through and win that thing. And if they go to the Rose Bowl undefeated, it'd be hard not to vote against Joe Paterno for a national champion. But I also want to bring up Alabama. All right?
I was about to say Alabama.
Alabama may not be one of the top 5, but they have the weakest schedule in all of college football. I think their out-of-conference schedule has Little Sisters of the Poor on it and Berkmar High. Don't they play them as an out-of-conference? I mean, I was disgusted when I saw Alabama's out-of-conference schedule. So they're obviously going to be 11-0, 10-1, 9-2, something like that going down the stretch.
I think they'll be there, and I'm really curious to see how Alabama's running back situation is going to be. I really think that Gene Stallings made a mistake last year by redshirting those 2 freshman running backs, Damian Valerie and Curtis Alexander. I definitely would have played one of those, and I think he would have won a few more football games with them last year. But get ready to see both those guys play.
Don't count out the Wisconsin Badgers. All right, we have another phone caller. Hi, caller. You're live on the air on the press box.
Yeah. Hello?
Hi. How you doing?
Hello? Oh, hi. Hello. Anyway, I had a question about basketball, Hawks, me specifically in particular.
Sure. Basketball Hawks question. Shoot.
I live out on a farm, and it's the damnedest thing. A lightning bolt struck my antenna, blew the TV out, and being out on the farm, I don't get the newspapers in when I go into town. I've been watching the Hawks lately. I got a TV repair, and I've been watching the Hawks, and I've been able.
Well, that's not a sports question. Okay. Thanks for your time, but that's obviously not a. It's a weather question. Call the Weather Channel. All right. We were talking about college football. We both gave our top 5 picks. It's all Big Ten for me as usual, with Notre Dame thrown in there.
I am sort of slanted. I was picking a lot of teams from the South except Notre Dame, and they have a whole bunch of Southern players that they recruited anyway.
All right, let's go on. You want to talk about the Braves? What happened with that trade, Ty?
Well, so far it's looked good.
I'll say
they've and Kelly's helped this team out with some big hits, but still, it's a long season. There's a long way to go. I mean, if he goes out there and if Kelly sits there and comes on for the Braves and knocks in 70 runs for the year, batting in the number 1 position, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good acquisition. I would still like to see him be able to neutralize the loss that the Braves have of 2-out hitting with Deion Sanders. Deion hit over 400 with men in scoring position.
He may do that.
I think they're going to miss that. Unless Kelly just comes out and does the same thing and just bats well with men in scoring position.
I'll tell you what, though. Sanders got a lot of RBIs because the bottom of the order gets on for the Braves. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, in a traditional batting order, 7, 8, 9, those guys aren't on, all right? Lemke's done a good job. O'Brien, Lopez, whoever hits in that catcher slot, they do a good job of getting on. And the Braves pitchers have traditionally been good hitting pitchers. So that's why Sanders got the RBIs. And I really think that Roberto Kelly will follow that up with a bunch of RBIs. You'll see.
We'll see.
He'll be all right. I think the trade has done him well. I think it's done better on the defensive side than it has on the offensive side, although Roberto Kelly continues to hit over 300.
Yeah, he has.
Okay, speaking of the Braves, and we had college football just a minute ago, what do you think of the Braves stealing that Georgia signee Lombard?
Well, you got to feel for Ray Goff and Georgia. I mean, here it is. You have to contend with, on your schedule, you're going to have Tennessee, Florida, and Alabama, and then here it is, before that even starts, you have to contend with the Braves taking your players. But then, on the other hand, I don't know if George Lombard really wanted to play football. Here it is, this guy, he's about 200 pounds, he's 6'1", runs under a 4.4 40, and playing in high school against basically mountain boys from Forsyth, Hall, Habersham counties, and those areas where football is not that good, where the kids are small but slow, he only averaged less than 7 yards a carry. I mean, a decent high school running back is going to average 10 yards a carry, and that's not always going to guarantee you anything. I mean, Frank Harvey out of Dawson, Georgia, averaged 10 yards a carry as a running back down there at Terrell County High, and didn't do anything really that much at Georgia. So I really don't think Lombard wanted to play football that much.
Nah, there's probably more money in a lengthier career in baseball. I think we have one more phone caller. Hi, caller. You're live on the air on the press box.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, how are you?
Hey, I know that dogs didn't get Lombard and everything, but I just don't know how, with Sire being a senior and all that, how can you not like Georgia? When you say Alabama, how can you not like Georgia along with that, considering that?
Does Georgia have a week out-of-conference schedule?
Yeah, I know. Well, the only thing I see bad about their schedule that could be, deathly is that game in Florida. You know, because that's going to be in the Gainesville. So.
Hey, Georgia has a number of tough games. I think they have to play Tennessee in Tennessee.
No, Tennessee is at home.
Oh. The SEC championship game, they're going to have to get there in order to see that place all right.
Hey, I would love to see it. But that's going to be awfully tough. Ray Goff is going to have to go out, and to get in that position, he's going to have to win games that he has no business winning, and he hasn't done that yet. He's going to have to win at Alabama, and he's going to have to somehow win at Florida. Well, maybe get one out of the two. I don't think he's going to get either one. I like Georgia's offense, but yet they don't have an established running back. I think they're going to have to go to a 3 wideout offense this year. And the big key for them is a running game. If they're going to have to air it out like they did last year, I don't think they're going to win no more than 9 games, and that's being very optimistic. And not only that, you have a new defensive staff out there who I think is going to be much better than the previous people they had up there, led by Richard Bell, who I think had no business being in college football in Athens. I do like those changes, but Georgia's got a lot of work to do with their defense. They got to find an offensive line that can run block. It's going to be very important to give Eric Zier some support on that team. But if he does get support, look out, because he can light it up.
I don't know. In answer to the caller, we were talking about the top 5 teams in the country, and I don't know if Georgia could be one of the top 5 teams.
No, they're
in the
not
SEC.
one of the top 5. There's
Much
no
less
way.
the top 5 in the country.
They got a whole lot to do, and there's a lot of ifs. But if a lot of things fall right, then they do have some people that can make things happen. But a lot of good things are going to have to start from the top, and that's with coaching. And my personal feeling about Ray Goff is that I don't have too much confidence in him.
You're kidding.
To win big-time football games against teams like Florida and Alabama, where he needs to get 1 out of 2.
Hey, well, speaking of local college sports, how about Georgia Tech in the World Series? College World, they win tomorrow night, and I think they play for the championship on Saturday, don't
right,
they?
and I do like their chances, and the main reason is because they have 2 pitchers, Rigby and Gogolin, who are pretty good. As long as Georgia Tech can go with those 2 pitchers the whole time and let them start, I mean, the series is
Rigby should be rested.
He is rested, and then Gogolin would be rested if they go on to the championship series if they win this next game. If Tech loses this next game, then you're going to see other teams be able to go a little bit further into their pitching staff, and they may be a little suspect to that. But one thing that I have no question about is their offensive capability.
Yeah, they sure showed in that extra inning game. He put an 8 spot on the board in the 10th.
I tell you what, Florida State blew it in the 9th inning, though. They got a leadoff single, had the guy miss a sign, he was called stealing, and then they had 2 straight singles after that, and then the inning was killed by a double play.
However, with Veritek behind the plate, you could catch the sign and still get caught stealing, couldn't you?
Maybe.
He's great at throwing out runners. I mean, he's throwing out like 80% of the runners in the World Series. It's incredible. He's getting them at third, at second. He even threw behind one guy at first, almost got him. I just think the pitching is the key, like you said. Rigby, if he comes back with another performance, they got to play Cal State Fullerton. And if he comes back with another performance like he did in the opening game, hey, they're sitting in the driver's seat, and they could bring home a national championship right here, right around the corner from People TV studio.
I could see it happen, but one thing that might be a little frustrating for Tech in the back of their mind is that when you go to that championship game on Saturday, you can be undefeated in the series and play someone that's got 1 loss, and it doesn't matter. It's no longer double elimination. It's do or die in that final game. I remember Georgia beat Oklahoma State that way. Georgia had 1 loss in the series. Oklahoma State was undefeated. Too bad. It was that 1 game.
That was a good point. That is a do or die situation. All right, we got to wrap it up here, Ty. We'd like to thank all of our callers for calling in, especially ones with sports questions.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. And we'd like to remind everybody about our sponsors, the Atlanta Knights, whose season's over, but you can still get tickets for the upcoming defending of their Turner Cup Championship, and Dirty Al's Northside, where you can join us after the show for a cold draft and the Stanley Cup hockey game. Thanks again for tuning in. This is the Press Box.